Hi, Internet. Welcome to the Troyan YouTube channel here with another rocker reaction. So, it is Thin Lizzy Thursday, but it is also Phil Lynott's birthday on Thin Lizzy Thursday. Very, very serendipitous. And, I had a recording already done for this week before a viewer on the channel, Colonel Peppers, pointed out that it's Phil Lynott's birthday today. And so I realized I had to do something special for this Thin Lizzy Thursday. And there are so many great songs that I could have gone with today. I thought about going with The Rocker or a song for While I'm Away off of the Vagabonds of the Western World album. Uh, I thought about going with Dedication, sort of the last song of Phil's life. I thought there might have been some poetic symmetry between, his birth and his death, and so ending it with his final song. So I thought about doing that. Just so many great songs. I thought about doing one of his solo songs since it was his birthday. There's so much great material, and it was very, very difficult to choose. So, what I ended up going with, I'm actually going with the title track off Black Rose because, you read the description. That's what you're getting. Phil was very, 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 very proud of his Irish heritage, and this song is really like wearing that on his sleeve, showcasing him as the masterful storyteller. And I think if Phil were to define himself, I think he would define himself as a storyteller, and stories, live on for generations after the storyteller passes. And so this song is really harkening back to many stories of the past, in Irish mythology and folklore. And so he, brought that into the present day and continued that legacy. And, Phil was a very, very big spirit, a larger than life personality. And it's so hard to pick a song that, could honor him on this day. But I thought to myself, you know what? This is, it's an epic. It's over 7 minutes. And one of Phil, Phil has a lot of nicknames. One of his nicknames is the Rocker. After the song The Rocker, and some people call him the Black Rose, which Black Rose is also a nickname for Ireland itself. But I think this is it's a great tune, and I'm happy to share it with you. And so, happy birthday to Phil, and let's get into it.
When the kings and queens would dance in the realm of the Black Rose, play me their melodies, I want to know, so I can teach my children.
Yeah, so I mean, this is considered by many Thin Lizzy fans to be one of their strongest songs. Considered a classic in the catalog. This is the Gary Moore lineup. So the guitar duo of Scott Gorham and Gary Moore on this track, and this is famous for its very epic guitar solo that weaves in several different classic Irish songs. And actually, I'm going to make sure I look up which songs those are when we get to that solo. But this song, it's really the entire Black Rose album, like most of the album, pretty much up until this point, actually, is very contemporary, very urban, very street, strong songs about, poverty, strife, drug addiction, very much a street, tough kind of album overall, and very much in the modern day. And so this, as the closing track to the album, is a little bit of an oddity just because of how much it harkens back to the past and mysticism. But once again, that great duality with Phil, where he was able to recognize the value that those stories of the past, held and still holds. And so his desire to remember history, remember the past, and teach his children these melodies that are just part of the soul of Ireland and the people there. I think is something intrinsically true about humanity, where there's stuff from thousands of years in the past that still resonates with humans today. Where there are people who still resonate with the Bible, who resonate with the stories of the Vikings and the Norse gods, who resonate with stories of Zeus. Like, these tales resonate in the core of the human soul, and these Celtic melodies are some of the most enduring melodies in all of human history. And so to mix those melodies with this hard rock setting, it's one of those things that Thin Lizzy, did very, very uniquely. And I just think that, this is a killer track, a perfect song, and we're about to get into the next verse, so let's do it.
Pray tell me the story of young Cuchulainn, how his eyes were dark, his expression sullen, and how he'd fight and always won, and how they cried when he was fallen. Oh, tell me the story of the queen of this land, and how her sons died at her own hand, and how fools obey commands. Oh, tell me the legends of long ago.
So, I, as a kid, read a lot of books on mythology. It was just something that really fascinated me. Different cultures, different religions, and the stories that they contained within, those cultures. And I was very attracted to the story of Cuchulainn at a young age. For those who don't know, Cuchulainn was basically like one of the original berserkers. And a berserker is a character in fiction who just, when they fight, they go into a blind rage and they become, very, very powerful. And often they can't tell friend from foe, but they're so powerful that, like, basically no one can stop them. So, like, the Incredible Hulk would be an example of a modern Berserker character. And Cuchulainn was a Berserker character in Irish mythology who was just like a really freaking cool dude, where when he died, he tied himself to a rock so that he could die standing like a man. And I just thought that dude was like a really freaking rad character and always thought he was cool. And, he's considered a hero in Irish folklore. And, Phil Lynott was a big fan of Cuchulainn growing up and looked at him as a hero in a number of ways. And so when I found that Phil Lynott, name dropped Cuchulainn in a song, I'm like, man, this is pretty cool. And, there's a lot of implication of, great stories of the past and how Phil wants to keep those great stories alive. That's essentially what this song is. And one of the things I guess I'm doing through Thin Lizzy Thursdays is keeping Phil's story alive. And, there's so much to his story. His love for his children, his love for his community, the poetry of his lyrics, the different layers to his lyrics, the flaws he had, the self-examination of his flaws, his deeply religious side. There's a lot of different sides to the guy, and so I'm glad to continue his story in some small way. Yeah, so this song is aggressively Irish. So that solo section was a bunch of traditional Irish folk songs woven into a guitar solo, and the arrangement for these are credited as Lynott and Moore, and the writing credit on the song is credited to Phil Lynott and Gary Moore. So they were really working on in some ways making the ultimate Irish song. Thin Lizzy was a band that wore their Irish pride on their sleeves. And so, in the same way that Skinnerd is an authentically Southern rock band, Thin Lizzy is an authentic Irish band, and what they did with incorporating these kind of melodies, it's very different than an extended Skinner jam. It's very different than a lot of extended guitar jams of the era. Like this is distinct because it is really playing with those Celtic melodies, and that's not something you really heard in rock music in that era. You've since had like the Irish punk thing with bands like Flogging Molly and Dropkick Murphys, but in a hard rock setting, like this is very distinct, especially for the time period. I've heard I saw one reactor compare this to Iron Maiden. I think it has a completely unique, distinct flair that there's not really another band that that emulated it. Once again in the era, but the songs in that section are Shenandoah, which I'm probably Shenandoah, which I'm probably pronouncing wrong. Will you go, Lassie go, Danny Boy, and the Masons Apron. I am not necessarily an expert in Celtic music and Irish music, but the melodies are very, very familiar. I think that solo section is great. I thought there was great dynamics, great build. You know, great movements, as it picked up towards the end. And once again, Gary Moore is a very emotive player, and as is Scott Gorham, so the two of them work very well as a unit. That is a legendary guitar solo section, and, a song that, pairs nicely with Whiskey in the Jar as just like great rock interpretations of these, classic Irish songs. It's Phil carry on the legacy of his roots. Like this is Phil honoring his legacy, honoring his heritage. This is something that he very much viewed as his identity. And so I feel like this is one of the better choices of a song I could have shared today because, if I'm thinking of songs that Phil would say, this sums up who I am, there's a few others that would have been good choices, but I think this is one that he would say is a solid pick. And so I'm going to rewind just a hair to get that transition, and we'll get back to it.
Oh, tell me the legends of long ago, when the kings and queens would dance in the realms of the Black Rose, and play me their melodies so that I might know, and I could tell my children.
And that drum fill is so freaking awesome. I cannot sing enough of Brian Downey's praises. I'm going to rewind a bit, but yeah, that's freaking killer drum fill.
So that I might know, and I could tell my children. Dove is my one and only true love. It was a joy that Joyce brought to me, while William Butler waits. And Oscar, he's going wild. Usher Brandon, where have you been? Looking for a girl with green eyes. My dog Rosaline is my Colleen. That Georgie knows best. Van is the man. Starvation wants to
And the line "Van is the man," nod to Van Morrison. Obviously, lots of nods to Irish culture. A lot of them go over my head because I'm not an expert, but yeah, very cool stuff.
Drink your whiskey in the gyro. Sing
And I mean, come on, you all caught that one.
Drink your whiskey in the gyro. Sing playboys of the western world. Usher Sean, I was born and reared there, where the mountains of morn come down to the sea. It's such a long, long way from Tipperary.
Yeah, and there you go. That is the title track, Black Rose, Rosienda, which I'm probably pronouncing wrong. I have a I have some difficulty pronouncing some of the more Irish stuff in the Lizzie catalog. Which is a bit annoying to me because I don't necessarily like being one of those like Americans who can't pronounce things from foreign countries. Uh, because like I've seen it with like members of my family where like they'll really struggle with like Japanese pronunciation and like won't be able to like pronounce the words and will like intentionally do it terribly. And so I try not to do that. But also I'm gonna acknowledge that like, hey, if I'm not nailing it, I'm not nailing it. I know I'm not nailing it. But yeah, this is my favorite Thin Lizzy album, Black Rose. Yeah, you see two of them on the screen. Not a track on here I don't love. My only disappointment with it is that the album version of Waiting for an Alibi is it has the third verse cut from it. And also so did the single, and so like only on like a later release where you're able to get the version with the third verse, which I don't know why they would cut it on the album version. I understand for the sake of the single, but why would you cut the third verse, on the album version? Make it longer, give us that. You have that sweet album real estate. But yeah, I mean, Black Rose, the title track is just just a really, 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 killer song. The inner sleeve is quite cool here, and as probably can't really see it, I should maybe make that disappear. But the Legend of Cuchulainn, they've got that in the liner notes because it is important. Let's see, Legend of the Rosienda. Dark Rosaleen is a Gaelic poem translated by James Clarence Morgan, who lived from 1803 to 1849. It is an allegory in which Red Hugh O'Donnell addresses Ireland and calls on the Pope in Rome and King Philip of Spain, late of the Armada, to come to his aid. The call to arms is well concealed in the poem to avoid treasonable utterances for which the penalty was death. The past may be forgotten, but it never dies. The elements which in the most remote times have entered into a nation composition endure through all its history, and help to mold that history, and to stamp the character and genius of the people. The second verse of Rosienda touches on the saga of the wars between Queen Maeve of Connacht and Red Branch Knights of Ulster. Cuchulainn, the House of Ulster, was the champion and the greatest of all the heroes of the Red Branch. This all happened in the great days of long ago. A statue of the death of Cuchulainn stands in the GPO in Dublin. So yeah, that's some extra information on it. But long story short, incredibly freaking Irish. Phil Lynott, an incredibly freaking Irish man, and once again, a man who was. I think he understood like how cool his heritage was because he really appreciated the cultural heritage that he had from being Irish. He really appreciated the cultural heritage he had as a black man. He got really invested in both those cultures, and I think that this is one of the great rock epics. It is so different than so many other things that you hear in the classic rock genre because it's an oddity. Because to have like that extended of like a hard rock solo with clear classic rock production, but with those kind of like scales and patterns, there's not really another song that's really like it. That's that hard, that heavy, that Irish. So it's a very unique song that I'm honored to share with you, and hopefully enjoyed it. And happy birthday to Phil. For those of you that drink, have a shot of whiskey in Phil's honor. And don't be driving anywhere if you're having a shot of whiskey in Phil's honor. Be safe out there. But yeah, so that is the video. Happy Thin Lizzy Thursday. Be sure to do the liking, the commenting, the subscribing, and stick around. The next week's Thin Lizzy video is one I recorded in advance, and it's a great song. It's a live performance, and it's really killer. But I wanted to do something special for Phil's birthday, and this felt like a special one. So yeah, that's the video. Bye, everyone.